Buckle in, sports fans. You're listening to The William Haynes Show. The program will be starting in just a couple of minutes, so grab your popcorn and get ready to enjoy the show. While you're waiting, make sure you're following us on social media at WHBC Stream and staying tuned to WHBCStream.com. We're so glad to have you today on the program, and we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line on Twitter or call the show 352-639-0036. And thanks again for tuning in.
HBC. Well, it is a good evening to you and how you be. William Haynes here, you there, here on this Friday night at 10:21 with 50 seconds to go along with it. Again, Friday night, final show of the week will be off Saturday and Sunday, so we do have a couple of Rays games to preview, and along with that, we do have a Rays loss, 6-5 loss to the Blue Jays in 10 innings. Really quite disappointing. The Rays looked impressive on some fronts, left some meat on the bone again. It did kind of come down to runners, the team with runners in scoring position and men left on base. Also, I think Aaron Loop was left in a little too long, and if you agree with me or maybe disagree and want to get your thoughts heard on the air, they'll certainly be documented. The number to call is 877-566-1020. Number to call. We'll probably be on for about 40 minutes or so. However the night takes us. Again, number to call 877-566-1020. Also have some games on the monitor here. It's the Clippers and Mavericks. Clippers up 13 right before halftime, and the hockey game we have is the Blues and the Canucks. The Canucks up 1-0 as the first period ends up coming to a close. The other hockey score from tonight, it was the Flyers 3-2 over the Canadiens. They win that series 4-2, and the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, Philadelphia, will advance, and the Montreal Canadiens, a little run that they went on, is coming to an end. And then we'll talk about that and the basketball and the games tomorrow and this weekend, and you know, some ongoing MLB action that's going on right now. But of course, the main focus of the show tonight, we are talking Rays, and it's, to be specific, tonight's Rays loss. Again, number to call 877-566-1020. Certainly a lot to unpack. We'll start with the way the lineup shook out. Defensively, we'll start from the outfield from left to right. It was Meadows in left. It was Kiermaier in center, Renfroe in right, and then the infield from left to right, it was Yandy Diaz at third, Wendell at shortstop. At second base, it was Brandon Lau, and at first, it was Ji-Man Choi with Michael Perez catching, and Ryan Yarbrough was the starting pitcher. Also, just wanted to float this out there. I'm sure you've already heard it if you're a Rays fan, but Yonny Chirinos, we contemplated this, kind of speculated, poked at it on last night's show. Yonny Chirinos is going to be done for the year, and most likely all of next year. He's going to have Tommy John surgery, was feeling some discomfort in his elbow. If you recall, he went on the injury list earlier this year with some tricep inflammation, and then when he came back, he went 2 2/3 in his first start, and then he threw his bullpen prepping for his next start, and he reported some shoulder discomfort. They check it out, and it looks like a UCL issue whatever the case is. So again, Tommy John he's probably going to miss about 2 years. So we had a caller last night saying, maybe the Yonny Chirinos experience could be coming to a close, and really I can't knock that right now. Not having him for that period of time is certainly going to help. They do have a lot of prospects that are about a year away. Of course, Brendan McKay is going to miss this year and hopefully be back at least to some point next year, as we hope with Brent Honeywell. Shane Baz is still a few years away. That's no injuries, just as far as his progression along the minor leagues. So the Rays do have some starting pitching coming up, but right now it does look a little barren. Charlie Morton, who we speculated, or everyone was speculating that, or even the Rays themselves, basically said that Charlie Morton was going to start this weekend. He is not, so you assume maybe Monday or Tuesday, somewhere along those lines. Probably Blake Snell getting bumped from his start, but we'll look at that a little later. So if Morton comes back, it's just him along with Glasnow, Snell, and Yarbrough. So there's 4, and then maybe you just slide Richards into the 5 spot for the rest of the regular season. And of course, when the playoffs come, you're probably only going to need 3 starters, and then maybe you just play Yarbrough behind an opener, as they did in the postseason last year. So I'm not completely worried. I know some people are calling for the Rays to pick up a starting pitching prospect, or just any kind of starting pitcher during the trade deadline. I don't think that's necessary, again, for the reasons I laid out. All you have to do is get into the playoffs, and it looks like maybe in the AL East, the top 3 teams will probably end up making the playoffs, and for the Rays, that's certainly not going to be a hard thing to accomplish with tonight's loss. They are now tied with the New York Yankees for first place. Again, the Yankees, their entire series against the Mets this weekend is postponed. The Mets had a player and a coach test positive, and they're going to play it safe for now. So I'm sure the Yankees will probably just go back to their normal schedule, but they will not be playing this weekend. Also of note, I believe it will still be on Fox Sports Sun, hopefully, but the nationally broadcast Yankees and Mets game that was supposed to be on TBS is getting flexed for the Rays and Blue Jays. So the Rays will be getting the national treatment, as they did a couple of times last week against the Yankees. So maybe that'll be a good thing. Hopefully the Rays can kind of live up to it. With tonight's loss, the Rays dropped to 17-10, so still 7 games above 500. They dropped to 8-4 at home. And again, I told you they are now tied with the Yankees for first place. And the Blue Jays at third place, they're now 2.5 games back of first. They've won 6 straight at 13-11. So I would not be surprised if all 3 of those teams that I just mentioned end up making the playoffs. I think Baltimore and Boston are pretty much done at this point. The Orioles have lost 5 straight, and the Red Sox are 10 games under 500. So you could probably bury those 2 teams. But it is going to be tough. Obviously, you want to be the top seed so you can get that 3-game series in the first round at home. But still a lot of season to go. We're about halfway through the year at this point. But with the Blue Jays coming up well, this series is certainly crucial. The last time that these 2 teams will meet in the regular season. And not great that the Rays lost the first game of the series, but again, 3 games upcoming against them. And I think the Rays, the way they played the bullpen, they were setting themselves up for the next 3 with Nick Anderson not coming in. In the 10th, if you agree with me, disagree, have any kind of thoughts along those lines, again, number to call, 877-566-1020, with you probably about until 11 or so. And I gave you the defensive alignment, the way the lineup was structured. It was Meadows leading off, followed by Lau and Diaz, and then it was Choi cleaning up with Brasso and Wendell, and then it was a bottom of Renfroe, Kiermaier, and Perez. I think I got that a little mixed up. There was a lot of substitutions, but we'll get to that when we get to it. And the starting pitcher was Yarbrough. He went 6 1/3. We'll tell you that when we get to it as well. We're going to go inning by inning, give you the breakdown. Top of the first, it was Ryan Yarbrough striking out the side, and he looked really, really well doing it with ease. You thought maybe he was headed for a good start, and ultimately he did, but giving up the 4 earned runs. In the process, in the bottom of the inning, it was a solo home run and then a stalled threat. It was Brandon Lau hitting a solo home run, 404 feet, continuing his really MVP level. I believe he's still first in the American League in wins above replacement. I believe it's probably now just under 2 is his WAR. So he's certainly still in that discussion for AL MVP and getting on the board there early. Put the Rays up 1-0. It was then Yandy Diaz with an infield single. It was a weird cue shot off the bat that looked like it was going to go foul, and the third baseman, Travis Shaw, just let it roll all the way to the back. So Diaz gets on, has a big grin on his face. He reached base all 5 times it looks like he came to the plate. So a successful night for him. We'll talk about takeaways a little later. And then it was G-Man Choi doubling against the shift, and Yandy Diaz was thrown out at the plate. Lourdes Gurriel Jr., really good throw, beat him by quite a bit. So, and we do have a call coming in. We're going to go ahead and take that right now. And it looks like we have a first-time caller on the William Haynes Show. Who do we have the honor of speaking with?
Hey, my name's Sebastian.
Hey, Sebastian, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Canada, actually.
Oh, all right, Sebastian. Nice to hear from you tonight. What can you say?
Nothing. I just wanted to comment. I thought, Yarbrough looked pretty good despite that rough second inning that he had. Gave up those, I'm pretty sure it was 4 runs.
Yep.
And then he kind of settled down after that. So, despite the fact that he gave up those runs, I thought he looked pretty good. And the team overall, can't expect to win them all. We've been kind of on a hot streak, so can't be too upset. Hopefully we can take the next 3 games, I believe, we have with Toronto still.
Yep, 3 games. Yeah, I think the Ryan Yarbrough start was really big. The 4 earned runs, but he ended up settling down. Gave the bullpen a break. I thought maybe they would use Nick Anderson tonight, but they gave him the day off. So I think the move with that was to keep him in play for the next 3 games. So I do agree with you there. I think the Rays prospects over the next 3 games looks pretty good.
Yeah, and he seemed to shuffle around even like the infield a bit, giving Adames the night off and putting in who was there, Wendell, at shortstop there as well. So
yep.
I guess he just kind of wants to have the guys rested whenever he can. Not many days off coming up, so can't play every day.
Yeah, and it works out well with shortstop because with the lefty and righty, you can play it depending on what the pitcher is, and it makes sense to give Adames the day off against righties as they did tonight, and Willie was able to come in and pinch run. Obviously, Cash really aggressive with the substitutions, and it worked out tonight mostly, I would say.
Yeah, kind of upsetting that throw at the plate for Yandy when he got thrown out. I don't know whether the third base coach thought he had more time, but knowing Yandy's pretty slow and his sliding's not the greatest, so it's kind of questionable there. But I guess he was just being super aggressive and it didn't work out for him.
Yeah, I think early in the game, and that was really a perfect throw from Lourdes Gurriel Jr. I kind of get the thought process behind sending him, but again, I kind of agree with you as well. He's not a great base runner, and that wasn't a great slide. And I mean that is a good point because that obviously that one run, if he could have come across, would have been the difference tonight. Yeah,
well, it is what it is, and there's also the tag by Perez on Gurriel Jr. there was pretty clutch, I would say, even though it looked like it might not have tagged him, but at least we got one call to go our way.
Yeah,
usually
I think they got a break.
Yeah, we're not usually on the positive end of those calls, so that was nice to see.
Yeah, absolutely, it was.
Yeah, and it's a shame to hear about Chirinos. I didn't know he was going to end up missing so much, but I guess Tommy John surgery really puts you out, and with the condensed season already, kind of makes it tough to be able to come back next year. So hopefully we'll be able to see him again, but yeah, I don't know how that's going to work out.
Yeah, I'm hoping we will see him again. You never know how pitchers recover from something like that. Chirinos' kind of tenure as a Ray has been a little plagued by injuries anyway, but obviously when he's been healthy, he's really rolled. He's a guy at the back end of the rotation that can give you 5 or 6 innings strong every time up, and I think, certainly the Rays are going to miss that for the remainder of the season. I guess they're going to have Trevor Richards or kind of mix and match with that 5 spot, but again, that's going to put a stress on the bullpen that's not necessarily ideal.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, now that you mentioned that, one more thing I wanted to say about Yarbrough was I don't know whether this is correct or not, but it seemed that this was the deepest that one of our starters has gone in the game. So that was kind of nice to see because, Yarbrough was at around 50 pitches by the end of the second inning there. So it was nice to see him kind of settle down and be able to get into the 7th at least.
Yeah, definitely. That pitch count was inflated after that big inning. That's the good thing about Yarbrough is He's certainly not a power pitcher, and those kind of slow sliders can be enticing to hitters, but really what they end up doing most of the time is just rolling over on him, and Yarbrough gets a lot of weak contact, and it allows him to have those kind of 7 or 8 pitch innings that, you can be at 50 or 55 through 2 or 3 and then end up going 6 1/3 and still being under 100 pitches. So, yeah, I think Yarbrough, a valuable asset for sure. He's certainly proven he can be a starter right out of the gate, although he did start his career behind an opener. But, yeah, you got to love Yarbrough's performance right now.
Yeah. Yep, not too concerned about him. I think, we seem to be struggling with the first couple innings. It seems to be a pretty common thing the past couple games that I've been watching. But starters always seem to sort of settle down after that, and then the bullpen has been pretty good as well. So, I mean, it is what it is.
Absolutely. Well, Sebastian, thank you so much for calling. It was great to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you. Talk to you soon.
My pleasure. All right, and that was Sebastian calling in from the Great North in Canada. Glad he's not a Blue Jays fan. Glad he's on the Rays side of things, and great to have you on the program, Sebastian. If you're listening to this, thank you again for being part of the program tonight. Agreed with a lot of your points. It was good to see Yarbrough go deep into the game. I didn't realize that. I think that is actually correct. That's the deepest starter has gone, 6 1/3. Cash has been, as he usually is, a little trepidatious as far as letting the starters go deep into games. But with the way the bullpen is right now, I certainly love the move. I believe he was at 85 pitches or so, and I thought maybe he would pull him out, but he keeps him in, and he gives you, I think, about 4 more outs from that point. So that was really good to see. And then the bullpen, obviously, with just Castillo and Loop coming into the game, I didn't like the move to keep Loop in. He takes the loss tonight. But that is what it is. I see the logic in that. You want Anderson available in the next 2 of the 3 games, so they can still hopefully take this series. I think as far as series go, the rest of the year, it's a lot of National League East contests. You have the Blue Jays and the Orioles in this homestand, and then after that, you go to New York once. You got Boston and Baltimore, but outside of that, it's all National League. You got 6 games against the Marlins, 2 against the Nationals, actually 4 against the Nats, and then you have 6 games to finish the season, 3 against the Mets and 3 against the Phillies. So obviously the American League East games are more important just for the Rays to separate themselves against those teams to make sure they're probably one of those top 2 or 3 teams to secure that playoff spot. So obviously I would have liked to see Cash maybe play this game a little bit more aggressively, although as far as the pitch hitting and the pinch running, he was aggressive from that front. And I'm sure, as usually as it is with Kevin Cash, the moves he makes with the bullpen usually will end up paying dividends further down the road. So we'll have to see from that. And I believe where we left off talking inning by inning, it was the bottom of the first. It was Yandy being thrown out at home after that Choi double, and then Wendell walks, so it's 2 men on with 2 out, and Yoshi strikes out to leave some men on. So again, Rodney Linares gets aggressive and sends Diaz home. It was a perfect throw from left from Lourdes Gurriel Jr. To get the throw really way out front of Yandy Diaz. Obviously not a great base runner, and that was another good point by Sebastian as well. The Rays, the first couple innings, they were really good in that aspect on the road trip, but when they were struggling, the 0-5 road trip to begin the year, and even some of their struggles after that, that was really the problem. That was why the Rays were so good a year ago, was putting up runs in the first and second inning. It throws off the pitcher and it gets the momentum on your side, allows you to leverage the bullpen, all that stuff. So I understand the move to a real aggressive. After the Lau homer, you've already got a run up on the board. Let's try and get another one there. We're not sure what we're going to get from the rest of the lineup. But Yandy ends up getting thrown out, and in a 6-5 game, that would have been the difference. Diaz, outside of that, you got to love his performance. 3 for 3 with 2 walks. So he reached base all 5 times. He's now batting exactly 300 and 422 on base percentage. He's showing the power, 2 home runs in as many games. He's coming into, I believe, the last couple of games, 90% of his hits were singles. So Diaz showing more of the power that he did a year ago. I think the timing on his swing is good. The batting eye is still there. Obviously, he's still walking, no strikeouts. So Diaz, a really good player to have at the top of the order. I love the way the lineup was structured today. With you have Meadows leading off, Brandon Lau at this 2-hole, and Yandy Diaz batting third. And then it was G-Man Choi cleaning up, and he didn't give you much. They ended up pinch hitting for him in the middle of the game. He goes 1 for 2, and we'll give you kind of that at the end of it. And then at the top of the second, the Blue Jays put up a 4 spot. It was Teoscar Hernandez and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hitting back-to-back home runs, so that made it 2-1 Blue Jays. Brandon Drury hits a single, gets to second on a wild pitch. Biggio walks to make it first and second with 2 outs. And then Lourdes Gurriel Jr. hits an RBI double to make it 3-1. And then Grichuk, his single scores a runner, and then it was Lourdes Gurriel Jr. thrown out at home. It was originally ruled safe, and it was Michael Perez. It looked like maybe the string of the glove might have caught Gurriel Jr., as Sebastian was mentioning, the Rays kind of catching a break on that front. And I thought maybe, certainly a 4-1 game looks a lot better than a 5-1 game in the Rays, as they have done kind of the last 10 games or so, were able to come back from it. But then obviously later in the game kind of lost it. So at the end of at the end of 2 it was 4-1. The bottom of the second, the Rays went down 1-2-3. It was Matt Shoemaker. I had mentioned him, the starter for the Jays. He initially was going pretty strong. He only went 5 innings, 74 pitches. The Blue Jays were quite aggressive with the bullpen tonight. Top of the third, it was the Blue Jays getting a walk, but that was it as Yarbrough begins to settle in a little bit. And then in the bottom of the third, it was Yandy Diaz hitting a 426-foot home run. It was a real blast just to left center that made it 4-2 Blue Jays, so it cuts the lead to just 2 runs. In the top of the fourth, there was a double play, so Yarbrough only faced 3 batters. It was a Biggio single, was the lone base runner, so that kept his night efficient again as he settled into the groove. And then in the bottom of the fourth, the Rays went down 1-2-3, so it kind of was going back and forth. And then in the fifth as well, both the Rays and the Blue Jays went down 1-2-3. We go to the top of the sixth. It was the Blue Jays going down in order once again. Through 6 innings, Yarbrough had only thrown 87 pitches, so the efficiency was there, obviously. You like him coming out for the 7th, although it did end up stinging a little bit. In the bottom of the 6th, it was the Rays tying up the game, and then they did leave the bases loaded, which was 4-4, and obviously that ended up being the difference. Matt Shoemaker comes out to start the 6th. Ryan Borucki came in. Shoemaker's day finished. 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs on 4 hits, walks a man, strikes out 6, gives up those 2 home runs, 1 to Lau, 1 to Yandy Diaz. 74 pitches, 52 of which were for strikes. Again, Shoemaker's year against the Rays has been a little bit checkered. Obviously goes 6 innings strong in his first start, and then his second start he ends up getting tossed with fighting the umpires, really some pure rage. And then tonight kind of a weird start where he gets a no decision. Looked good to start, and did let a couple of things get away from him. But through only 74 pitches, I was kind of surprised because at that point, Shoemaker could have given them another 1 or 2 innings. And that was one of my takeaways. I'll give it away here. The Blue Jays bullpen is going to be taxed over the next 3 games. The Blue Jays got the win, so it was good from that perspective from them. But Montoya was extremely aggressive with the bullpen. They are missing some guys. I believe it is their closer, Ken Giles, still out with whatever was ailing him after that Sunday afternoon to open the season against the Rays. So obviously they're missing some guys, but the guys that do have pitched well tonight, unknown how much they'll be able to go the remainder of the weekend. It was Romano getting his first save in his first save situation, which I believe is their best reliever right now, but they do have some other guys that were pretty good. But Borucki comes in the 6th. It was Brandon Lau and Diaz opening the inning with back-to-back walks. He put a couple of men on with no outs. Jose Martinez pinch hits, so obviously Cash going real aggressive with the pinch inning. He pinch hits for Choi, so you follow along the logic that platoon at first base. Martinez, I guess the plan was to maybe have him play first base or even have Brasso come off the bench depending on how things shook out, and he hit a game-tying double, which is the pinch hitting has been extremely clutch for the Rays this year. Again, just wanted to throw it out there. Number to call 877-566-1020. We've already had a caller tonight, and we thank Sebastian for being part of the program. So that pinch hit by Martinez tied the game at 4-4, and then Brasso came on to pinch run for Martinez. Brasso would end up coming in to play first base, so it all worked out from that front. Then Wendell singles to make it first and third with nobody out, and in that at bat he fouled the bunt away, but ends up getting the single, so it all kinds of works out. But you see the logic in a close game, in a tie game, you want to move Brasso over, and a sac fly would bring him in. So, the bunt attempt was there. The Rays don't do a ton of that, so that was kind of refreshing to see. There was a failed hit and run attempt later in the game. And then Margot pinch hits for Yoshi Tsutsugo. Yoshi was the DH. He finishes 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts, so not a great performance from him. His average is down to 188, and his on-base percentage just under 300. So Margot, it's a clean switch. He just comes in to finish the game at designated hitter, and did okay in that regard, I suppose. And when Margot comes in to pinch hit, Barucki comes out to play. They're playing the righty-lefty game, and Dolis comes in. Barucki obviously doesn't get an out. He ended up being on the hook for obviously those 2 runs and did walk another 2 men. I guess was charged with a blown save as well. And Dolis comes in. Margot an unproductive out in the pinch hit at bat, and then Renfroe another unproductive out. So it goes from runners at the corners with no outs to runners at the corners with 2 outs. Kevin Kiermaier walks, which was the 3rd walk of the inning, to load the bases with 2 outs, and then Perez works a full count and strikes out. He goes 0 for 4 tonight with 3 strikeouts. So that was certainly a little bit disheartening from that front, obviously. The Rays fans calling for Perez to play more because of the hitting aspect. Zunino had hit home runs in back-to-back games, but obviously you see the logic. Maybe just giving Zunino a day off, which we expected, and also give Perez the righty-lefty. But Michael can't take advantage of it tonight. Top of the 7th, back-to-back singles, no runs allowed. Yarbrough ended up getting in a little bit of trouble. He only got 1 out in the inning. It was back-to-back singles from Drury and Biggio. Espinal on an 0-2 count for the first time in that at-bat showed bunt and fouled it, so obviously that's a strikeout, and he was not happy with himself. He ended up having a clutch bunt. Later in the contest, Ryan Yarbrough comes in. Ryan Yarbrough comes out. Diego Castillo comes in. Yarbrough's day is done at 6 1/3. He goes up 4 earned runs on 8 hits. So that, from that perspective, doesn't look great. But 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, 2 home runs, 97 pitches, 64 of which 4 for strikes. We look at his and he faced 27 batters. 19 of those had a first pitch strike. So that was good. He was getting ahead of hitters more times than not. And ultimately, you like his performance. Kevin Cash lets him go deep into the contest, still stays under 100 pitches. His last start, he only went 3 innings and I believe just over 50. So you definitely want to give him some length, if only just to keep him fresh, because sometimes pitchers, it's talked about, they need rest, but if you give him too much rest, that can also be bad for him. Edwin Diaz is a guy that voiced that earlier this year. And Diego Castillo comes in, who had pitched twice in the Yankees series and had played pretty well. He got into a bases loaded jam but got out of it in one of those games and then played well in the other one. He gives them just under 2 innings tonight. So he comes in with a couple of men on and 1 out. And then gets Lourdes Gurriel Jr. to ground into a double play to get the force at third, and then the throw to first to end the inning there. So in just a couple of pitches, Castillo gets 2 outs. So that was good as far as his efficiency, and we'll talk about that later. As far as Castillo's future as part of the bullpen. In the bottom of the 7th, it was a walk, but that's all they could muster. It was A.J. Cole coming in for Dolis, and he pitched all of the 7th. It was Yandy working a 2-out walk, and then Brasso was out to end the inning. We go to the top of the 8th. It was Diego Castillo getting a quick 1-2-3, gets Grichuk to strike out. Renfroe made a jumping catch on a Tellez flyout that was, I believe, against the wall. So that was a nice highlight play from him. He also had one a little bit later, and then got Teoscar Hernandez to strike out to end the inning. So Castillo was sharp. His day was done with there. He pitched 1 2/3 innings, no earned runs and no hits, no walks, and 2 strikeouts. So just under 2 perfect innings. 14 pitches, 10 of which were for strikes. His ERA is now 0.90. He's only given up, I believe, 2, or I think it was just 1 earned run on the season. It was a 2-run homer to Gio Urshela, but the runner was inherited, and that wasn't even Diego's fault. It was I believe a fastball or a cutter that ran in, and Gio ended up somehow pulling it to left. So Castillo's been lights out from the bullpen. He's gotten into jams at times, but again, tonight's performance just shows you exactly what he can do. He's pitched on back-to-back nights and in 3 of 4 games, so you think he's going to get a day off, if not maybe 2, just to be careful with him and keep him fresh. And then we go to the bottom of the 8th. There was a failed hit and run attempt that kept the game tied. It was A.J. Cole coming out, Anthony Bass coming in. The right-handed pitcher did face the lefty Wendell first, who singles. And then Margot comes out, and this is where the failed hit and run. Wendell goes to steal. Margot puts down the bunt and then pulls it back as it was way outside. And then I believe they made a catching switch. I don't know exactly when in the game. I believe it was Reese McGuire in the game at that point, who has a good arm. He beats Wendell to second. So Wendell's caught stealing, and that basically erases it. Margot flies out, and Renfroe grounds out to end the inning. So obviously you see the logic late in the game. Obviously that's not something the Rays do a ton of, but you see the logic in that it's tie game in the 8th. You get a man on with the leadoff single. You do the hit and run. Wendell's got some decent speed on the base path, and Margot, someone who I talked about just a couple of days ago, I knew there was going to be some sort of clutch situation because I've been seeing Margot fake the bunts and show the bunts coming over from the National League in San Diego, where they do a lot more bunting. The Rays don't have a ton of guys who are good at that, and Margot, I knew there was going to be a time where Margot would come up with a man on, and they were going to try a hit and run. They do try it tonight, and it fails, not really by fault of Margot. They just picked the wrong pitch to do it on because it was well outside. So they catch a tough break there, and again, that could have made the difference in the game. Who knows exactly for sure? We go to the top of the 9th. It was Hunter Renfroe making a great play, and Loop keeps it tied. It was Diego Castillo coming out. Loop came in to face two righties, which I thought was a little interesting, but they go with Loop. I guess just that's the way they wanted to structure the bullpen for this series. The first out, Renfroe makes an amazing running catch. It was a snow cone, barely caught it. It was, I believe, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. at the plate, a well-struck ball. And that inning could have gone a lot differently. Obviously, Loop doesn't have the best stuff in the pen. But Renfroe makes an outstanding catch, gets the snow cone in the tip of the glove, and then kind of a weird play where his momentum is carrying so strong to his left, and he jumps over the short wall and then crashes into the concrete wall out of play. It was a weird play. It's hard to describe it. Definitely go check out the highlights. I know it's going to be on there. It was a little bit shaken up, but I think he's going to be okay. Obviously, Renfroe has got a large frame. He can kind of absorb that contact. But obviously, I mean, imagine running at full speed. Essentially, he ends up perfectly leaping the wall and going out of play. And another thing, too, he's wearing spikes, and he's coming down hard on the concrete floor. So that could have been, obviously, as far as football, I want to say it was Reggie Bush in St. Louis, if I'm not mistaken. His career ended when he was his momentum carried him out of play, and he kind of, I guess, his knee buckled with the cleat on the concrete. So obviously that's happened before. I've obviously played football, so I know, kind of with the concrete, wearing cleats. So that was kind of a scary thing. It was certainly an interesting play. Renfroe crashing into the concrete wall as well, but makes the catch. So that was kind of a cool highlight thing. Shaw flies out, and Drury strikes out the inning. So Loop in a nice ninth inning keeps the game tied. It was 4-4. So obviously the Rays had a chance in the bottom of the ninth to walk it off. And obviously, that they don't do that. We're headed to extras. Anthony Bass comes out. Hatch comes in, the right-handed pitcher, to face really all lefties, which was kind of a surprising move to me. Gets Kevin Kiermaier to strike out. Then Perez strikes out. It was Meadows working a single, and that brings up Brandon Lau to the plate. So who knows what could happen from there, but Lau ends up flying out to end the inning. And then we head to extra innings, and it was Aaron Loop being left out to rot. Now, this is really... If you want to point to, there's two things that you could really point to in this contest. If you want to say why the Rays didn't win, obviously they leave the bases loaded, I believe, with one out or whatever it was. Obviously not being able to bring the runner across. As a team, the Rays go 3 for 8 with runners in scoring position and leave 9 men on base. Obviously that's kind of been an issue for the Rays all year, but also... The decision to leave Aaron Loop out for a second inning is pitching on a back-to-back. I'm not sure to the extent that really matters any, how that impacted his performance. He was 3-0 coming into this game, so and obviously an ERA under 4. He's a veteran guy in the bullpen, a soft-tossing sidearm lefty, but they bring him in the 10th. Obviously a man on second base with nobody out. Biggio immediately hits an RBI double to make it 5-4. So just like that, basically the same exact situation. A man on second, nobody out, but now the Jays have the lead. And Espinal, if you remember, struck out basically on the bunt foul with 2 strikes. Makes a successful bunt this time to move Biggio to third base with only 1 out, and Lourdes Gurriel Jr. a sac fly makes it 6-4, and that run ended up being the difference. Grichuk doubled, so it was a man on second with 2 outs, and then Jansen lined out to the pitcher Loop to end things. Loop ended up being in line for the loss. In 2 innings pitched, he gave up an earned run, 1 unearned, obviously the sac fly, I guess, or no, the unearned run would have been the runners that started on second base on 2 hits. No walks, which was good. Struck out a man. 24 pitches, 15 of which were for strikes. He was 4 for 8 as far as getting the first pitch strikes to battery face, so that's not great. Obviously, with a guy that is not a power pitcher and doesn't have electric stuff, you want to get ahead of hitters. Obviously, a guy like Glasnow or even a Castillo can kind of get away with that stuff because their stuff is so good that, even if the hitter is ahead in the count, they can just make a hitter's miss. Loop, not a guy who can do that. I didn't like the move to have him in extra innings, but they do it. The positive for that is the bullpen is going to be extremely fresh. To give credit to Yarbrough as well. Credit to Castillo to getting some quick outs, and then Loop getting through it basically. I believe he's on a back-to-back, so we won't see him at least tomorrow, obviously. And then we go to the bottom of the 10th. Hatch comes out. John Romano comes in. His first save situation of the year, although with an 0.69 ERA, he's been absolutely electric. I believe in 12 innings pitched, he only gave up 4 or 5 hits or something like that, something absurd. And immediately it was an RBI single from Diaz to score the runner from second to make it 6-5. So, all right, it's a runner on first with nobody out. In the tying run, obviously, at first. Adames comes in to pinch run to give you some speed there. Obviously, the kind of miscue with, not a miscue, but the missed chance with Diaz getting thrown at home in the first inning. Then Brasso flies out, who's been a clutch hitter, so that was kind of disappointing to see, but obviously you can't have them all. He's still batting, I think, .350. Wendell strikes out, and then Margot, down to his last strike, hits a single to make it runners at the corners with 2 outs. Obviously, the tying run 90 feet away, it was Willie Adames, and then Hunter Renfroe grounds out. Obviously, I mean, not a good year at the plate. He's hit home runs, kind of in blowout-type games. Comes to mind in the 14-5 win over the Braves earlier, had a couple of home runs. I know he crushed, I think, one in Boston when the game was out of hand. And then, if you recall, on opening night, I believe he was the final out of the game. He struck out looking, I think, with the tying run in scoring position. And then he goes 0 for 5 tonight. No walks, no strikeouts. He's now batting .174, is on base of .256. So, made some good plays defensively tonight. You like that. But the offensive performance kind of cost them there with the runner 90 feet away. Obviously, it would have been interesting to see. The Rays might have had to use some of their pitchers, so a win, you would rather have the win, obviously, but they can't end up getting it. The Rays lose. It was Loop, the losing pitcher. Hatch got the win. Romano the save for the Blue Jays. We're going to take a break at 10:57. We'll give you some baseball scores as the hockey and the basketball has been light. We'll just touch on that later in the show. Number to call during the break, 877-566-1020. We've already had someone be a part of the program that was calling in, so we appreciate that. We're going to take a quick break, give you some scores, and we'll be right back. HBC. Just a handful of games tonight that have already gone final in Major League Baseball. It's the Red Sox 8-5 over the Orioles, the Tigers 10, Indians 5. It's the Pirates 7-2 over the Brewers. The Blue Jays obviously 6-5 over the Rays in 10. The Marlins 3-2 over the Nationals, and some games currently still in action. It is the Braves up 11-2 over the Phillies in the 7th. In the top of the 9th, it's the White Sox 10-1 over the Cubs. They got to John Lester pretty good early on. In the top of the 8th, it's the Royals 7-1 over the division-leading Twins. In the 8th, it's the Reds 4-2 over the Cardinals. In the 5th, it is the Padres 2, Astros 1. In the 6th, the Mariners 6-4 over the Rangers. And now a couple of games in the West Coast. The Dodgers 4-0 over the Rockies. In the 4th, also in the 4th, Athletics 3, Angels 0. And also in the fourth as well. The Giants 2-0 over the Diamondbacks. Get a number to call during the break, 877-566-1020.
Hey, sports fans! William's currently in the can, but he'll be right back. We're currently on a commercial break, so don't touch that dial. Remember, you can call us at 352-639-0036 or drop us a line on Twitter at WHBCStream to tell us what's on your mind. We want to talk sports. We want to get unruly. We want you to tell us what you think so we can argue. Anyway, when all that's said and done, please stay tuned for William's world-famous Around the XFL podcast and other projects that he's currently got in the works. Please visit WHBCStream.com, and thanks again for listening in.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM. Sports Radio 636. Sports Radio
HBC. And at 11 p.m. sharp, we are back on the William Haynes Show. Final 20 minutes or so here on the William Haynes Show. Number to call as we wrap the program, 877-566-1020. We're going to give you some takeaways from tonight's loss and then look ahead to this weekend's contest. Again, we won't be on the air Saturday or Sunday, but we'll be back on Monday night recapping the Rays game and, of course, taking your calls. That'll be the final game of this series. Some takeaways that I had during this game, I think ultimately the Rays lost as Luka Doncic is hopping off the court and going into the locker room. So that looks like the Mavericks' chances are probably done. The series is tied 1 game apiece, so that's certainly going to be a national sports story. Also, the Canucks are up 4-0 over the Blues midway through the second. Looks like the Canucks are going to end up taking that series. They're up 3-2, so it looks like the Canucks will end up advancing. As I distracted myself a little bit there. But I think it was cash out managing Montoyo. Obviously, Charlie, I think, is going to run himself into a wall with the way he managed the bullpen. It's going to be shot. Obviously, they played well tonight. You go aggressive to get the win now. But we look ahead to the predicted starters for the Jays over the weekend. It'll be Ryu tomorrow, so he'll probably give you some length. Unannounced on Sunday, and Tanner Roark, I believe, who the Rays dinged up pretty good the last time they faced. So probably a bullpen day for them on Sunday, and I don't know, I guess they expect Ryu, who's been pretty electric, for them to give them some length on Saturday, maybe to give some days off. Maybe, I guess it makes sense from that perspective. If you've got your best starter, your ace coming up the next day, you can kind of tax him a little bit. But I like the way Cash did the pinch hitting, the way that's gone again. Second straight game, the pinch hitting took the lead in really crucial spot. That's really something Cash has done really his entire tenure with the Rays. Pinch hit twice in that 6th inning. The Rays have the most pinch hit appearances for any team in the American League. In those pinch hit appearances, hitters are averaging 350, and they get on base to a clip of 650. So extremely effective, and it's really worked out. It was Martinez pinch hitting for Choi, and it was Margot pinch hitting for Shitsugo. The Margot one didn't quite work out, but the Martinez one did and tied up the game again. So that was a really crucial move, and I loved that decision there. Obviously, again, the Blue Jays bullpen is dinged up for the next 3 games of this series. Yandy Diaz returning to form. He's hit 2 home runs in 2 games. Obviously, the short porch one in Yankee Stadium, that's the only park that ball would have been a home run in, but obviously that kind of opened up the floodgates. He reaches base all 5 times he comes to the plate tonight, including kind of a lucky infield single to get it started, and maybe that was just all Yanni did. You love the smiles kind of that he's had tonight. You don't usually see that from him to that extent. Looks like Yanni's having a lot of fun out there, and it's really working. I like him top of the lineup. I think in the 3 spot really works. I don't think he's a cleanup hitter, and obviously we saw what he did in the leadoff spot in the postseason, hitting 2 home runs in the American League wildcard game a year ago, but we probably won't see that as long as Meadows is doing his thing. But I like Diaz in the 3 spot again. 3 for 3, scores 2 runs, knocks in 2, and also walks twice. He's now batting .300, which is really impressive to see, certainly from him. Also, the infield platoons provide flexibility. I was talking with that a little bit with Sebastian earlier on in the show. Adames getting the day off. They play Wendell at shortstop, so they can kind of platoon that, or just maybe give Adames a day off. But both that can play shortstop, and one's lefty, one's righty, so that works out. And we saw it come to fruition where it was in the 10th, so he didn't need to play the field, Adames. But Adames could have come in and played shortstop if need be. And also with Choi and Martinez, that's another platoon-type spot. Choi, who's now just going to bat lefty this year, that can crush righties. And Martinez, the righty bat who was brought in specifically to crush lefties. You can play it like that. And it was Martinez coming in to pinch hit against a lefty and did hit a game-tying double. And then you can have him come in to play first. Ended up having Brasso come in to finish the game at first, which is fine. He also had a pinch run appearance. But obviously the Rays are all about flexibility, and kind of the platoons they have along the infield I think helps a lot. With that, also some guys that can play the corner outfields. Also Castillo, potentially the new setup man for Anderson. Obviously they don't do the traditional 8th, 9th. It's just wherever the high leverage spots kind of bring themselves to fruition. And obviously Castillo has been lights out, an ERA under 1. He's only given up 1 earned run all of this season. It was a home run to Gio Urshela, which was yesterday, and that wasn't Dave Wills on the radio for the Rays on WDAE. He says all the time, a lot of home runs are usually pitched, not hit. That home run was definitely hit. It was a fastball, I think, or maybe a cutter that ran well inside, and Gio again ended up pulling it to left. But outside of that, he's gotten into some jams with some walks, but they've been really electric. And another thing that Dave Wills always says about what it takes to be a back-end high-leverage reliever, it's not just getting outs in big spots, but doing them efficiently, because obviously if you're one of those guys, and Anderson is the same way, your team needs you, in a 3-game series for 2 nights, or essentially 4 or 5 times a week to close out a game or whatever the case is. But if you're kind of getting in jams, even if you don't give up any earned runs, if you're pitching 20 or 25 times, the team's going to have to give you some extra time off to keep you fresh. But it was Castillo. Obviously, a double play ball helped with that. It was a little bit lucky, but gets 5 outs in 14 pitches. That's incredibly efficient, and had a quick 1-2-3 in his only full inning of the night. He's not going to pitch tomorrow. He's pitched back-to-back in 3 of the team's last 4 games. But we'll probably see him on Sunday or Monday, depending on how things shake out. And again, with the loss, I think the move to keep Loop in ultimately cost him. I would have loved to see Anderson in the 10th. I think the Rays probably would have ended up winning that game, because I can probably assure you that Anderson would not have even given up the unearned run. I wouldn't be surprised if he struck out the side, and then it was Diaz ripping off the single immediately, which would have been a walk-off. Obviously, you can't exactly play it like that, because, who knows what ends up happening after that. But I didn't love Loop. I think he was left in too long. He only gives up 1 earned run in 2 innings pitched, so ultimately that's good. Pitching to about a 3.55 ERA. So you can't complain about too much for what he is. He's a veteran in the bullpen, a kind of crafty lefty that's sidearm, kind of an Adam Kolarek type, along with Ryan Thompson. So that is what it is. But the positive of that, with only Castillo and Loop coming in after Yarbrough, gives the Rays a lot of flexibility with the bullpen over the next 3 games, including Nick Anderson, I believe, will pitch in at least 2 of the next 3 games, depending on how the situation calls for it. And we'll see from that again as we put a wrap on the program, about final 10 minutes or so. Number to call 877-566-1020. We thank Sebastian again, if you're still listening, for calling in and being part of the program tonight. As we look ahead to tomorrow, also I mentioned Charlie Morton won't start this weekend. Not sure, maybe Monday or Tuesday. Someone's start is going to have to get pushed the way things are lined out. And Josh Fleming is going to pitch on Sunday. I just wanted to read a scouting report from him. He has yet to pitch in the big leagues, and he has only pitched 4 games in AAA. So this will be his major league debut on Sunday. He's going to get the start. Fleming led the country in ERA 0.67 and WHIP 0.71 as a junior in college and became the first player ever drafted out of Division III Webster University when the Rays made him the 5th-round pick in 2017. He played well at 2 levels during his first full season and was even better in 2019, climbing from AA Montgomery, where he ranked among the Southern League leaders in wins, tied for 1st, ERA 5th, and WHIP in 4th, in innings in 6th, up to AAA Durham. Another note that I compiled, he was the MVP for AA Montgomery, and then he left again for 4 starts for AAA Durham. And this scouting report, I believe, is courtesy of the MLB.com. He's an athletic left-hander with a clean delivery. Fleming knows how to be effective with each of his 3 pitches. Though nothing he throws is plus, his fastball has a ton of late sink and run, sitting at 90 to 92 miles an hour and touching 94. He can spot his heater with precision on both sides of the plate or drive it down in the zone to get ground balls, which he did at a 54.4% clip in 2019. Fleming's above-average slider and average changeup are enhanced by his excellent fastball command, though neither secondary offering is particularly effective against right-handed hitters, who batted 302, 334, 502 against him in 2019. With his blend of stamina, pitchability, and command, Fleming looks the part of a future back-end starter. Some evaluators believe he's better suited for long relief role due to his struggles against righties and dominance against lefties, though even Fleming's detractors think he's ticketed to pitch in the big league. So, again, that courtesy, I believe, of MLB.com. Someone posted it up in the Rays subreddit as well. Left-handed pitcher. I'm not sure how stretched out he is. He's been on the 60-man, I believe, since June. So, I mean, he's been ready to go. He's been pitching against the guys in Port Charlotte. This will be his big league debut on Sunday. It looks like the Blue Jays don't have anyone announced against him, and it was Blake Snell originally slated to start on Sunday. So maybe they'll push Snell's start to Tuesday because there's an open slot there, and then maybe you have Charlie Morton start on next Thursday against the Orioles. That's the next open spot in the rotation, and then you play it, on a 5-game. Well, that might be kind of tricky. To be honest, they're gonna have to figure something out. It might be a Trevor Richards start somewhere in there just to give a guy an extra day of rest, unless they want to play a guy on short rest just one time to get the rotation set up. But again, Josh Fleming will start on Sunday. A left-hander will make his major league debut. The one thing that I didn't like in 2019 in the minors, even though he was the AA MVP for the Biscuits, against righties against him batted 302 average, 334 on base percentage, and slugged to a clip of 502. So that's not great. Obviously better at getting lefties out. I guess that was kind of the point, is maybe ultimately in his career he'll be a bullpen piece that can come in to get lefties out very effectively. So that, we'll see. It helps that I believe Bo Bichette isn't going to play for the rest of this series. So we'll see with that. Also, tomorrow, the Rays hadn't announced who's going to start. According to Eduardo Encina, who writes for the Rays on the Tampa Bay Times, he says Aaron Slegers will start tomorrow for the Rays, and I believe that it will be in some sort of opener role. I want to get Slegers. I believe he pitched yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, against the Yankees. So probably, yeah, he did on Thursday. He pitched an inning clean, and then before that, just 2 innings 8 days earlier against the Red Sox. So probably another opener spot where he can give you 1 or 2, which is fine. Obviously, Richards is not going to be able to go, as he did open yesterday. A guy that I've been mentioning that I think will finally pinch in a bulk role would be Anthony Bonda. I think he had 3 innings against the Red Sox, which at this point was about 2 weeks or so ago. Jalen Beeks, obviously not a guy that's stretched out. He's more of a back-end piece. John Curtis, I don't think will be available. You look down the line, but you look at, as far as relievers, just pure relievers, you think Fairbanks would be ready tomorrow. Loop would not be, nor would Diego Castillo. So maybe you put it this way. Slegers for 1 or 2, Bonda probably for 3, so that might get you to the 5th, depending on how things play out. And then you get Fairbanks for 1, Chaz Rowe for 1, Ryan Thompson for 1, and then maybe Nick Anderson for the 9th. So that would get you through 9, and then you're going to have to played a little interestingly the rest of the way. And it obviously, again, it will be Josh Fleming making his major league debut on Sunday. Snell was originally slotted to start then. So I don't know exactly what the Rays' plan is. I'm having a hard time kind of following that logic, but I guess we'll kind of cross that bridge when we get to it. So we'll hinge in Rue, his stats on the year, who the Rays will face tomorrow. Again, if we wrap the program, final 5 minutes or so, number to call 877-566-1020. Hyun-Jin Ryu is 2-1 on the year with a 3.46 ERA. In his last start against the Orioles, he went 6 innings pitched, gave up an earned run on 4 hits, no walks, 3 strikeouts. His last start against the Rays on opening night, he went 4 2/3, 3 earned runs and 4 hits, but obviously he wasn't completely stretched out. Also gave up that home run to Yoshi, 3 walks and 4 strikeouts in that one. But I don't think you take a whole lot away from that. And to start previous, before the Orioles start, he went 6 innings against the Marlins. You'd see him probably giving them 6 or so innings again against the Rays tomorrow. And again, it will be Slager's the opener, and I would imagine probably Bonda getting the bulk innings of work. And it looks like on Sunday, it's an unannounced yet for the Blue Jays, so some sort of bullpen day against Josh Fleming, making his major league debut. And I gave you the way I expect the bullpen to line up tomorrow. It's hard to say if they'll do that and how that'll play out, but you think maybe Nick Anderson will be available certainly tomorrow, as well as Peter Fairbanks, Ryan Thompson, and maybe even Jalen Beeks as well, although he's probably a little bit taxed. As of right now, Hyun-Jin Ryu, the lefty thrower, they'll probably stack the righties again in the outfield from left to right. I would probably imagine it would still be. Also of note, I just got a notification, Albert Pujols is 1 RBI from passing A-Rod, and I guess he's at the plate right now, so I guess we'll probably see if he does that. Pujols in the end of his career is kind of racking up some of those career accolades. So the Rays, again, stacking the righties against the lefty Ryu, I would imagine. I would still put Meadows, the lefty, in the outfield, and then probably go Margot in center if they want to get aggressive, but they just had Kiermaier getting a day off yesterday, so that's kind of hard to tell. And then Renfroe, I would still put in right to try and get his bat going potentially. Zunino, I think, will catch. You expect that. And then the infield, that's hard to say. They don't. You go Yandy at third base, Adames at shortstop, Lau at second, and then you do Jose Martinez or Mike Brasso at first base. Probably the way things are going, you have Brasso play first and Martinez DH, and then again Zunino catching for Aaron Slegers to open, and I imagine probably Bonda to follow. And then again, I can't tell you how the lineup is going to look on Sunday because the Jays haven't announced their pitcher again. For the Rays, though, it looks like it will be Josh Fleming making his major league debut. Looking to some other sports, again, the basketball. I haven't seen an update, but you got to think the Mavericks are probably done if Luka Doncic can't play. The knee injury looked pretty bad. The Clippers are up with 11 minutes to go, 103-88 over the Mavericks. Some games that have gone final. The Raptors 117-92 over the Nets. They have now pushed Brooklyn to the brink, and Toronto leads that series 3-0, so I'm sure they'll put that one away relatively soon. The Jazz 124-87 over the Nuggets. I did watch a part of that game. The Nuggets did not look good at all. The Jazz were rolling. Utah now leads that series 2-1, and also the Celtics 102-94 over the 76ers. The Boston now leads that series 3-0, so they've taken a commanding lead as well. The Philadelphia has not put up much of a fight. Tomorrow, it'll be the Bucks and Magic. That series is tied. Pacers and Heat. Miami's up 2-0. Thunder and Rockets. Houston is up 2-0, and the Lakers and Trailblazers. Damian Lillard, who had a finger issue, I guess he's got it in a splint, and somehow he's going to play. That's impressive for him, as he's really trying to, obviously, kind of a generational talent, if you want to call him, but he's been absolutely kind of heroic for a Trailblazers team. Obviously, they're a fun team this year for sure. Carmelo Anthony coming in. They've got Hassan Whiteside, CJ McCollum, Yurcevich, or the big man that they've got. They've got pieces. And Damian Lillard, a guy who could have, taken a supermax deal or whatever to go somewhere else, but he wants to stay loyal to his, city where he's played. I believe he came up in Oakland, so kind of staying in that area of the country, staying true to Portland and the Trailblazers, and he's trying to put his team on the map to try and defeat the Lakers, although LA did come on really strong against them in Game 2 and looked like they flipped a switch. So it's hard to tell kind of where that series is going to go. We'll talk about it when we come back on Monday. And again, it looks like the Canucks are going to put their series against the Blues away as the second period comes to a close. Vancouver's up 4-0. And again, the Flyers close out their series today in a Game 6 win over Montreal. Tomorrow's game, the only one is the Stars and the Avalanche. That is actually the first game of round 2. So it looks like all the round 1 games have come to a close. And then the Lightning, it's going to be the Lightning and the Bruins playing at 8 o'clock on Sunday. So on Monday, we'll kind of talk about all the round 2 previews as some of the other series have not been straightened out yet. But it will be the Lightning and the Bruins. That will certainly be an interesting series. Love to see how that's going to play out, and we'll be with you every step of the way as far as that goes. I want to thank everyone who checked out the program tonight. We did go pretty much an hour exactly again. Somehow I continue to stretch this program out to an hour long, but we appreciate again everyone who checked it out. Again, Sebastian calling in from the Great North in Canada. It was great to have him a part of the program. We'll be back again on Monday. Hopefully the Rays do okay against the Blue Jays over the next couple days. It was a tough loss tonight, but it was close, and they continue to look good. Diaz is really heating up. Yarbrough, it was good to see a good start from him again. Next 2 days, again, I think the Rays, their chances look pretty good. We'll be with you Monday after the game against the Blue Jays, and of course, we will see you then.
Sports Radio 101.9 FM and Sports Radio 66. The Fan.
HBC.
W